All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Seekers 3-pack. And yeah, this is the Rainmakers. This set has been out for quite a long time, a few years now. I'm just coming onto it now just because I passed on it originally because I was like, well, I'm not even really going in on the Siege Seekers, and I don't really need, like 3 repaints of figures that I'm not even getting. So, I don't know. I decided to pass on them originally, and then once we started doing the Earthrise Seekers, and I had all the Earth mode ones that I wanted, and I was like, oh, actually, it would have been kind of nice to get those Cybertronian mode ones for the ones, the Seekers that never really left Cybertron. And by then, it was like crazy aftermarket prices, so I couldn't really get them. And I, kind of looked around for them on eBay for a while and just kind of gave up on it. But they put them back in stock on Amazon about a week or two ago. So I decided to, bite the bullet and pick them up. And yeah, they're a good set. A bit of a mixed bag, really. Here we have, there are Rainmakers from, the season, I think they were season 1, maybe season 2 episode of the G1 cartoon, where some of the Autobots went back on Cybertron, and they had the Seekers who were still there, led by Shockwave, and they were called the Rainmakers. Here we have Ion Storm, Acid Storm, and Nova Storm. And yeah, they've just been kind of generic background Seekers for a lot of different Transformers media past the years. Acid Storm is the only one that's like really gotten any attention when they did that like camouflage masterpiece version of it. And it's been, one of the more prominently repainted ones, whereas like, Ion Storm, I mean, every time they do a Blue Seeker, they just do Thundercracker, not Ion Storm. And then Nova Storm recently they did in Cyberverse, but she was like purple and not yellow. So, meh, it hasn't really been like the G1 version of Nova Storm. But yeah, they look pretty good in their Tetrajet mode. Obviously, their main feature is their like pretty wacky, like fluorescent coloring. They classic Siege thing. You remember Siege from a few years ago, and that thing that they decided to do with the entire line where they just like covered every figure in mud. These guys very prominently feature the whole battle damage gimmick, and when you look at them individually, it doesn't bother me. What really bugs me is the fact that when you look at all 3 of them, it's really easy to notice that all of the splashes of like dirt and battle damage are in exactly the same places on all 3 of them, which is really weird seeing all 3 of them together. And it's funny too how Nova Storm and Acid Storm both have like this kind of darker gunmetal gray for the spots there, but Ion Storm has the silver just because he's a darker jet, so they wanted it to pop more. But it's weird. Honestly, you don't notice it that much when looking at them most of the time, but it is kind of, I don't really love the fact... Well, I don't love the fact that it's there to begin with, but I really don't love the fact that it's the exact same pattern on all 3 of them. I just think that's a really weird choice. I get why they did it, but like, don't love that. But otherwise, they look good. These 3 characters were like, in the cartoon, they were just 100% like, he was just like entirely green, he was entirely blue, and he was entirely yellow. So like, any accented detail in the alt modes, I think is nice. I sort of wish they had not done so much of the paint budget on like these smears and like picked out more parts, but whatever. Otherwise, they look pretty good in their Cybertronian Tetrajet mode. Here they are with, I'm just going to do one of them. Here they are with Earthrise Starscream. I don't have any of the other, Siege Seekers. Just because like I wasn't really interested in getting the Cybertronian versions of Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp, and I was really happy to see that they ended up doing the Earth versions and Earthrise, but I didn't need the Cybertronian versions. And then the only other version of this mold that I have is the Shattered Glass Starscream that I recently got. Kind of funny how within a week I didn't have literally any of this like 2-year-old mold, 3-year-old mold at this point, and now I have 4 of them all within the span of a week. But yeah, and then just for the standard size comparison, here they are with Kingdom Sideswipe. But yeah, I mean, individually, I think they all look pretty good. It's just weird how, they all have the same pattern of the splotches there. And then also, just a complaint about Ion Storm specifically, I really wish they had used a different tone of blue here, because he looks really thundercrackery, whereas like in the cartoon, Ion Storm was really more of like an indigo kind of blue, like a bit purplier, I guess, a bit more purple. Not like full on purple like Hotlink or what's the other one, Bitstream. I don't know, but definitely like a much like sort of softer, more pastelly blue, rather than this like full on kind of blue that is really more appropriate to Thundercracker. But when you see all three of them, it doesn't really, like it doesn't really come across that way, just because it's like, oh, bright neon colors. But if you're just looking at him on his own, it's just like, oh yeah, that's Thundercracker. But it's not, it's Ion Storm. But yeah, anyway, to get on to transformation, I'm obviously just going to do one of them, not all three of them. We'll do Acid Storm just because that one's my favorite. Also, they have the same weapons under here that you can either store like on their shoulder mode spot or under the wings there. Here's a little side by side so you can see what it looks like. More or less the same vibe. I just like to keep it on the shoulders here at an angle so that you don't have to remove them for transformation at all. You can just leave them on throughout the entire process. But yeah, to get to transformation, first thing you want to do is take the chest plate back here, which I talked about in the Shattered Glass Starscream review too. It's like, it's weird how it's like sort of a fake cockpit, but like a fake Earth mode cockpit, just because of the way that they were designed to look in the G1 cartoons. But what's kind of neat about it is that it does kind of like give there a reason to be these like turbines on Starscream's chest. That's always been part of the Seeker design. But now they're like actually being used as propulsion, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so you want to take the chest plate and just fold it down on this double hinge, just like that. They sometimes come off that armature, but generally I think it stays on pretty okay. Then the wings are they're kind of tabbed in under the nose cone over here, so you just want to get it on the outside of that, and then also untab it from the arms here. It just has two little tabs there that go into these slots right there. And just do that on both sides. Then take the whole section, double hinge it up like that just to get it out of the way. Untab the arms from the legs here, just like that. Rotate down the legs. They've got that collapsing springy panel for so that they can fold up, but then still have a complete looking leg in robot mode. That's kind of nice. Then unfold the feet and the heels here. Rotate them around at the waist. Take the chest plate here and bring it down, which will also partially bring up the head a little bit, and then you can just tab in the chest plate, bring up the head the rest of the way, take this little panel that is on the back of his head, just fold it down so it's just kind of sticking out straight like that. Then for the arms here, I'll take off the weapon there to show this off. You just want to unfold this section, rotate out the hand, and then rotate down the forearm there, and then just close it back up. Then do that on both sides here. The null rays can get in the way a little bit for this, but it's still pretty easy to do it with them still attached, so you don't have to detach them at all. And then for the backpack here, you want to take the nose cone of the jet, split it, rotate it up like this to become their little shoulder vent things, which is pretty cool. And then just fold that down on the double hinge and tab it into the back here. And then last but not least, last and least, really, you're supposed to take this section here, which can be, depending on which one it is, because some of them it's a little bit looser, but it's really, really tight on Acid Storm. God. Come on. Oh, gosh. This is not worth it. I usually just leave this step. Ow. Okay, one sec. Okay, untap that section like that. I literally had to use the tool for that. And then it's supposed to peg in like this and then go onto the back to have the jets on his back. I usually just leave that because the step is such a pain, and I feel like it actually looks better to the panel's supposed to be down like that, but I feel like it actually looks better because it hides that gap. I think it looks better when it's just back like this. and then you don't have to do it. And I kind of like the detail of the jets showing up behind his head, which you can't see, but I like the detail of those jets kind of peeking in behind their heads. I just think it looks a little bit better that way. So I think it's kind of an unnecessary step that just kind of clutters up the robot mode a little bit. But if you prefer the look of the turbine, or the not the turbines, but the jet engines on the back, then that step is there. But I generally just kind of don't. And yeah, there we have Acid Storm. And here's Nova Storm and Ion Storm, so you can see all three of them together. And yeah, I think they definitely pop in this mode. They've got, unfortunately, more of that, you know, siege battle damage stuff. It's pretty subtle, honestly, with the silver on Ion Storm. It's not as bad, and it's okay on Acid Storm. It really sticks out on Nova Storm just because it's the yellow against the darker gunmetal paint there, and it's just, you know. Again, it's not like the worst thing in the world, and you can ignore it, but I just kind of wish that paint were used to kind of give them little surface details rather than just, you know, make them like almost 100% their neon colors and then just smear a bunch of mud on them. I don't know. Just because, like, you know, it's not, you know, like the original characters in the cartoon, it's not like there weren't other colors on them either. Like they all had like the classic kind of Seeker stripes on their wings, which these guys don't really have. I mean, they've got like this kind of gray detailing here, but not like, you know, like any colored stripes or anything like that. So it definitely would have been nicer to just like keep them overall the right color, but then like give them little surface details rather than, you know, just keeping them kind of bland. I don't know. Obviously, in terms of articulation, they're the same as every other version of this mold. The head is on a ball joint here and can rotate around. Shoulders can rotate around like that. Rotate out to the side. I've got a bit of a butterfly joint from transformation, bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, wrist swivel, waist swivel. Hips can go forward, back, only about that far, out to the side, thigh swivel, very deep knee bend because of transformation and that collapsible panel there, and then very good ankles that can tilt forward and back and out to the side only a little bit. And then obviously the wings have like the joint that goes like this and the joint that goes like this. And then in tandem, it does some kind of weird things. But, you know, generally it's nice to be able to kind of like give them some expressiveness with the wings. I will say that like the transformation, I mean, obviously I'm a little bit sick of this transformation just because I've had to do it so many times just for this review. And then, you know, a spoiler, not really spoiler alert, I guess behind the scenes alert. I'm recording this video on the same day that I did the Shattered Glass Starscream review. So I've transformed this specific mold a lot today, so I'm kind of sick of it. But it's an okay transformation scheme. I will say, though, that, like, technically almost all of the alt mode ends up on the back. I mean, if you count, you know, the vents as part of the backpack, then, like, all the rest of the robot just kind of folds up underneath the Tetrajet, which is not my favorite thing in the world. It's not quite at the level of, like, you know, Studio Series Scourge, where like the entire alt mode is just like the wings basically, and the rest of them is just folded up inside of it. It does have some integration, but yeah, I don't know. At least it's clean in both modes, but I don't know. It does give me some pause. But yeah, no, otherwise they look pretty good in terms of comparisons. Here they are with the standard size comparison with Kingdom Sideswipe again, obviously much shorter, being that he's a deluxe and they're Voyagers. Here they are with Shattered Glass Starscream, just so you can see the only other, you know, version of this mold that I have with them. And then this is going to be an impossible shot to do, but let's bring on Starscream. We can bring on Thundercracker. There's Dirge in the back there. We've got Skywarp, Thrust, and Ramjet. And there are all of my Seekers, I guess not counting, well, we can, why not? Toss him in there too. They're all of my my Seekers, and you know they're a good looking group. It's nice to have a lot of them and have them not all be the exact same mold. But you know, it's when you're transforming a lot of them, like it's just neither of the transformations of the Siege Seeker mold or the Earthrise Seeker mold are like particularly enjoyable. Like they're fine, but just like, oh, if you want to get all the jets, it's like, okay, you're going to be here for like 15 minutes just transforming figures, but whatever. And then last but not least, here they are with Siege Shockwave, who was kind of their leader on Cybertron when most of the other Decepticons were on Earth. But yeah, you know, they're pretty much what you see is what you get. If you have any version of this mold, they're completely unsurprising. I would say that, like, I really wish that they had a bit more sort of like minor painted details, because I get that the designs in the cartoon were very like just completely monochrome, but it would be nice to have like more things like the white on here that kind of picks out the details that aren't just like smatterings of the Siege stuff, because, like, again, you know, it's the exact same pattern in all three of them, which is really weird when you notice it. And I just feel like the paint budget would have been spent a lot better doing, you know, little surface details and stuff like that. But I mean, you know, that's kind of the story with Siege in general. I just feel like it on these guys, it's particularly noticeable because other than the like smudging battle damage, they are very monochrome. But either way, it's cool to have versions of these characters that, you know, we're probably not going to get new versions of for a while, I would think. Maybe Acid Storm, because they do him every once in a while. But, you know, like I said, like, if you look at Ion Storm and Thundercracker here, they're very similar shades of blue. Like, Thundercracker's a little bit lighter, but if you're just looking at him on his own, it's just like, oh, it's Thundercracker with not enough paint. But not, you know, doesn't feel like a different character enough, especially since it's not totally accurate to the color he was in the cartoon. But, you know, they are what they are. They're it's pretty much just like an army building pack, and it's nice to have them kind of in the background of my Decepticon display. But yeah, that's there are my opinions about a 3-year-old mold that I haven't gotten until this week. So if you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Seeker 3-pack.